Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss about dentin bonding agent. In the past decades, we have seen the use of bonding agent in concurrence with the traditional dental materials. The availability of these materials enables placement of tooth color restorative materials like that of composite resin, which not only enhances the aesthetic, but they are also functionally effective. So, we will discuss about the dentin bonding agent in detail. Coming on to introduction. The word adhesion comes from the Latin word adhere, which means to stick to. We will discuss about the few terms like the adhesion, adherent, cohesive forces and the adhesive forces. So what is adhesion? Adhesion, it is a process of adhering to a surface or object. If we defined, it can be defined as a state in which the two surfaces are held together by interfacial forces which may consist of valence forces or interlocking forces or both. And what is this adhesive? It refers to the bonding agent that, when applied to the surface or substrate, can join them together. And adherent, it refers to a surface or substrate that is adhered to. And what is the adhesive forces and the cohesive forces? The forces develop between the molecules of different materials. Develop the adhesive forces, and the forces develop between the molecules of the same material is called as the cohesive forces. Alright, so the bonding of resin to tooth structure is a result of four possible mechanisms. First is the mechanical, diffusion, adsorption and the electrostatic adhesion. In mechanical, we have the interlocking of the adhesive with the irregularities on the surface of the substrate or the adherent. Alright, and in adsorption adhesion, we have the chemical bonding developed between the adhesive and the adherent, and in diffusion, there is interlocking between the mobile molecules, such as adhesion of the two polymers through the diffusion of a polymer chain ends across the interface. And the electrostatic, here an electrical double layer at the interface of a metal with a polymer that is a part of the total bonding mechanism. So what actually happens in case of the enamel adhesion? So in enamel adhesion, the Bunocore in 1955 introduced the acid etching technique for adhesion of a resin to the tooth, and he used the acids to etch enamel for sealing pits and fissure. So basically, what happens here in the acid etching of the enamel, the acid etching transforms the smooth enamel into an irregular surface by selective hydroxyapatite dissolution. And it also creates a surface microporosity, and when the fluid filled resin based material is applied to the irregular etched surface, the resin penetrates into the surface aided by the capillary attraction, and this monomer undergoes the polymerization and the materials becomes interlocked within the enamel surface. And clinically, after the enamel etching, we have a frosty white appearance. The formation of the resin microtags within the enamel surface is a fundamental mechanism of resin enamel adhesion. So, the procedure, Bunocore used 85% of phosphoric acid, and later on it was shown that 20 to 50% of phosphoric acid creates the deepest channel in the permanent enamel, and presently 37% concentration of phosphoric acid is preferred, and the etching time in permanent tooth is of 15 seconds, whereas in primary teeth it's 60 to 120 seconds. The primary tooth comprises of the amorphous enamel and the aprismatic enamel. They are highly mineralized, so the etching time is more in case of the primary teeth. So basically they take more time to form the enamel tags, the macro and micro enamel tags. So after acid etching, they must be washed for 10 seconds, and the gel etchant should be washed for a longer period of time as compared to that of the liquid one. So after that we have to dry it. So what are the result of the acid etching of the enamel? Uh, First of all, it transforms the smooth enamel surface into the irregular surface, uh, and it removes approximately 10 micrometer of enamel surface and creates a porous layer of 5 micrometer to 50 micrometer deep, and the surface free energy is doubled, and the macro and micro tags are formed. So what are these macro and micro tags? The micro tags, these are formed at the core of the enamel prism, the numerous, and the macro tags are formed at the periphery. They are 2 to 5 micrometer in length. How enamel and dentin bonding differ? So what is the basic difference? If you talk about the composition of the enamel is naturally hydrophilic, and it consists of 95% inorganic matter and 1% organic matter by weight. It has got a hard solid crystalline structure, and the hydrophobic bonding of the resin can wet and penetrate the dried etched enamel because of the high surface energy of the etched enamel surface. On the other hand, if we talk about the dentin is just 70% of hydroxyapatite it comprises, and of 18% collagen and 12% water by weight. And this collagen is also inaccessible owing to the surrounding hydroxyapatite crystal. And on the other hand, we have a dentinal tubules, which is filled with dentinal fluid. So that makes it more hydrophilic than that of the enamel, because of which the bonding is more difficult in case of the dentin. So in the dentin, we have the dentinal tubule as the obvious pore available for the resin penetration. Alright, so the basic difference: the enamel comprises of the hard solid crystalline structure with the strong intermolecular forces. It has got a high surface energy, whereas dentin is intrinsically humid owing to the presence of the dentinal fluid in the dentinal tubule, and it is also less hard than that of the enamel. It has got low intermolecular forces and low surface energy as compared to that of the enamel. So bond strength to all of the dentin surface is consistently lower than that to the enamel, regardless of the material used. So dentin adhesion is a clinical challenge because of the structure of dentin, as I have discussed. Apart from this, we have a smear layer and stresses that developed at the resin-dentin interface. The smear layer, basically these are they constitute as a true physical barrier, and either it must be dissolved or made permeable so that the monomer in dental adhesive are able to contact the dentin surface directly to provide the adhesion. The current adhesion strategy, basically they depend upon the how the dental adhesive interact with the smear layer. Alright, and the third thing, here we have the stresses at the resin-dentin interface. The composite is bonded bonded to only one surface. So let's say if it is bonded to only one surface, then the stress relieved by the all of the unbonded surface. Right. Alright, so the stress relief within the bonded restoration is very much required, because the unrelieved stresses can lead to internal bond disruption. They may also lead to marginal gaps, and also they increases the micro leakage. So these are the challenges of the dentin adhesion. Apart from the structure, we have the two other things like the smear layer and the stresses at the resin-dentin interface. So what is smear layer? These are the residual organic and inorganic component form of a layer of a debris on the surface of the substrate. They comprises of the shattered and crushed hydroxyapatite, fragmented and denatured collagen, and they presumably reflect the composition of the underlying dentin from which it is produced. The smear layer fills the dental orifice and they form the smear plug. This is the smear layer and these are the smear plug. Alright. Coming on to the components of the dentin bonding agent. So dentin bonding agent comprises of an etchant and a conditioner, primer and the adhesive. Alright. So the conditioners are usually mild acids that clean the dentin and enhances its permeability. The conditioners are almost always rinsed off. They comprises of 16% EDTA, 10% citric acid, 10% malic acid, 10% pyruvic acid, 10% phosphoric acid, or 2.5% nitric acid. So the conditioner, so they create a microporosity that create the resin micro tags and result in micromechanical bonding. Alright, so the etchants, basically these are the function of the etchant only. So in etching we use 35 to 37% phosphoric acid and it prepares the enamel and dentin to receive the primer, and because of which the microporosities are created and the resin tag formation occur. Coming on to the primer. The primer are usually a bifunctional monomer in a volatile solvent such as acetone or alcohol. Alright, these are a bifunctional monomer present in a volatile solvent such as acetone or alcohol. They have a hydrophilic end that penetrates the smear layer and promote adhesion to the dentin, and a hydrophobic end that create adhesion to the resin. Right. So one end attaches to the smear layer and they promote the adhesion to dentin, and the other end it create adhesion to the resin. Thus they are called as the amphipathic monomers. So this primer wet the surface and improve the contact between the resin and the hydrophilic structure. They increase the permeability of the smear layer present and allow the adhesive resin to permeate the smear layer. And these primer provide the mechanical interlocking of the bonding agent to the surface, and they lead to formation of the chemical bonding between the resin and the altered dentin. So basically they are their aim is to alter the hydrophilic dentin surface into a hydrophobic phase, which will ensure an increase in the dentin surface energy, making the substrate an adequate receptor for the hydrophobic bonding agent. Alright, so thus we have a better wettability and penetration into the exposed collagen network. So coming on to the adhesive or the bonding agent commonly called as. So these components are either hydrophobic or hydrophilic methacrylate resin that attaches to the resin impregnated dentin surface via the primer. They are covalently bonded to the primer to the unit to link it to the hydrophobic resin, and they provide an attachment mechanism for the resin primer. So these are the components. Coming on to the mechanism of adhesion. So basically we have wetting, interpenetration of the material of the bonding agent, and that forms a micromechanical bonding, and the chemical adhesion that develops between the primer and the dentin substrate. Coming on to the evolution of the bonding agent. So during 1960s and 1970s, the first and second generation of the dentin adhesive They do not recommend dentin etching. They relied on adhesion to the smear layer, and they have a weak bond strength. Whereas on third generation we have acid etching of the dentin, we have a separate primer and increased bond strength as compared to that of the first and second generation, but the margin staining caused a clinical failure over the time. And in early 90s, the fourth generation came, and the concept of the wet bonding, the hybrid layer of the dentin, the collagen, was introduced. These generation were very technique sensitive, and after that we have a fifth generation in the mid 90s. They combined a primer and adhesive in one bottle, whereas in the fourth generation we have separate 3 bottle, but here the primer and adhesive is combined in one bottle. So we have one etching step along with application of the primer and adhesive as a single unit via one bottle only. So this generation is also called as the universal one. And in the late 90s we have the early in the early 20th century we have the sixth generation. The self-etching primers, there is reduced incidence of post-treatment sensitivity. Bond strength is lower than that of the fourth and fifth generation, but the certain disadvantages of the fifth generation, like that of the high post of sensitivity, was not in case of this generation of the dentin bonding agent. And in late 2002, the seventh generation, that is all in one, all the etching, primer and bonding agent was combined into one single bottle, and they have a single solution. So they provide good bond strength and the margin sealing capability. So in this way the evolution of the bonding agent came into place. So this is all about the basic concept of the dentin bonding agent. We will discuss about each of these generations of the dentin bonding agent in the coming video. So that's all for now. Thank you.